Cool.
Okay, hey guys. Rob Cremosta, of course, you know me, the Count de Monet or the Vintage Contessa's husband. I'm here in Monaco. We just finished the auction with Monaco Legends Group, and I'm with a buddy of mine, Adam Victor. Hey, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Wow.
Thanks for coming.
Yes, I'm exhausted after 2 days. You have to be exhausted because you've been on and on and on, working. Successful, you helping us sell our watch, which was
Congratulations.
Thank you. It netted in euros, well, into dollars, like 1.86 million. Fantastic.
Right. Yeah.
But I wanted
Quick
to talk
math.
about, yeah, thanks. Yeah, that helps. That helps. What was the most exciting piece you sold that you thought was just so cool that you may not see ever again that you sold?
You know, one of the great things about this auction house and being here is that there are so many examples of things that you might and probably will never see again, unless the buyer at that auction decides down the road that he wants to consign it again. There's so many opportunities for that experience.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm probably the least exhausted of everyone that's here because I'm thousands of miles away from everyone, So the team that's here and the people that are still working behind me, and Davide's out there on the phone still, and Claude's checking everyone and see how everything is going and looking at numbers. These guys are the ones that are truly exhausted,
Mm-hmm.
But this team puts together collections of watches that they love, and the things that they love are the things that are unique. It's not not that there's anything wrong with modern and contemporary watches, but when you've seen a couple of them or a couple hundred of them, they become less and less interesting. And this team finds things that move them, and that's what they want to bring to auction. And so for that reason, you can come and out of 270 lots, you can find 20, 30 that you may never see again.
I didn't even know that they'd made, I'd heard of a platinum Datejust.
Yeah.
And yet it's retailed by Serpico.
Right.
And the watch is gem, almost brand new.
Yeah.
And it brought 550,000 euros.
565,000 euro. And the winning bidder snuck in an incremental bid of 5,000 euro at the end. It was his one and only bid.
Now, I was here in the room and it was a little quiet, 5, because the bid was 560,000. He goes, 5, and no one could see him. And he just bought it. Shocking, crazy piece of history.
Yeah. And if I'm not wrong, that's a record for a Datejust. But also, if you had to, as a collector, if you had to imagine the most perfect, like if you in your mind had to create the most incredible combination of elements and the perfect configuration, that's probably the watch that you would make.
Right. Rare metal and platinum, one of 3 known, possibly, with the retailer's name on the dial, also the retail's insignia on the case back, on the engraving on the back, on the case back too.
Everything intact.
Fantastic piece.
So that was a surprise insofar. Maybe for me and maybe for folks that were here, it was a surprise. I think for Davide, it probably wasn't. He understands how important and how significant those watches are. And he's maybe seen things like that in the past where the rest of us have maybe only ever seen pictures. So he puts a watch like that in with incredible confidence, and we're like, wow, that's a strong start. But, there were people there to support it, So I think I was surprised by those things, but also always confident that those things were going to really do well.
As a collector of watches, as a man, I think of men's watches are the thing. But I was shocked at some of the most amazing, beautiful women's watches and the prices they brought. The Platinum Blancpain with the diamonds that went all the way around is 38 or 39,000 euros.
That's hammer.
$50,000 US.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe it. And then you had some Patek with turquoise, 1970s, really cool.
Yep.
Another $50,000 plus watch.
Yeah.
And women's watches were hot, which is fantastic. My wife wanted that watch also, but with
the baguette diamonds with platinum.
No, she wanted the Patek with the turquoise.
Ah, the Patek with the turquoise.
Beautiful watch.
Fantastic.
We have college to pay for yet, but that's on the list. It's on the list.
Well, you got to have your priorities, in order. And there's a real movement, I think, in the market, and as of late. And actually, I think that this team contributed to it a little bit. There's a heightened awareness for things that are exceptional and beautiful and out of the ordinary, you know? And as I said before, those are the kinds of things that we seek, the things that move us. So we actually, we all sort of found that together and worked really hard to bring it here. Because we hadn't seen that paddock configuration before with the turquoise, and for us it was magic, you know.
And the size of it too. It was 3.5 inches wide. It was like a cuff, almost like a. It just was an amazing piece of jewelry.
Well, I mean, one of the things that's really incredible is that 5 years ago you only would have imagined that that was a woman's watch, and while it maybe still is mostly, there are a lot of men that appreciate that in ways that they may not have even imagined that they might, a few years ago. When I arrived at Monaco Legend Group to contribute in the very small way that I do, one of my biggest concerns, because I fall in love with half the catalog, always, was that I wouldn't be able to participate, and I wouldn't be able to bid. And the truth is that I can leave bids, in some capacity. And so long as I haven't, consigned them or they don't belong to me, I pay the fees like everybody else does, And there was one watch when I got on the plane in New York to come here that I said, I'm coming home with this one watch. No ifs, ands, or buts. And it didn't happen. And it was a lady's watch. And it was for me. I have this game that I play with myself where I buy ladies' watches with the idea that my wife or daughter might like them or care one day. And I put them all in a little cookie tin, and it's getting full, as time goes by. So, we'll see what happens with those down the road. Maybe they're all incredible investments. I don't know, but they're all small jewels, and I love them. And you can really only find them here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mandatory.
Oh, yeah. My wife, Danae, when we were sitting in the auction, noticed that a lot of the watch collectors and dealers, because watch dealers and watch collectors are one and the same a lot of the time, are wearing 2 watches at a time, and some men are wearing women's size or 26 millimeter or smaller watches or 30 millimeter watches. Yeah. And I see that as a trend more now too. Yeah. Some people are wearing smaller watches or 2 watches on one wrist also, one oriented one way, one oriented the other way. Yeah. Yeah. Plus we're not really we're in Monaco, but Monaco is really more of like France and Italy combined. Right. Because you have both of those fashion commingle in this town here, which is town or country. I apologize to the Monaco people.
I've made that mistake.
For me, I'm going to say my thought. I thought the bargain of this sale was the Pataloni reference 8171 Rolex. Yeah. That watch was brand new, gem. And it's so cool.
It's a little disturbing is not the right word. It's surprising. When I've been chasing watches for a long time and paying attention for a very long time, and to come to a preview and to see or take a consignment that of a watch that's 75 years old, that's new is hard to understand for our minds sometimes, because we've never seen them like that before. So you kind of, for a minute, it's a little jarring and you don't really understand what you're looking at. And honestly, like we're a little hesitant, to even accept this kind of condition when we see it. But it's remarkable, and it doesn't take long to realize that it's special and just incredible opportunities, to represent watches like that and share them with people and put them in a room where people can sit down with them and spend time.
When you come here, you can take the watches out. They'll put them in a tray, set you at the table, except there may be 1 or 2 pieces you might need special permission.
Right, exactly.
But you can examine the watch, hold them in your hand, see how it lays on your wrist.
Right.
And it's a touch and feel. It's not like the internet.
Right.
The internet is an option, but you should view everything in person.
It's so important. We get messages from young collectors all the time, and they always say, well, what should I look for? What should I buy? What's the right investment? And it's like, listen, I can tell you a million things, but you have to come and you have to sit down at a table and you have to look and handle all the watches that you like, or if you find interesting or whatever. It's the only way to do it. And every auction house will let you do it, if you just have to arrive for the preview. But to come here is really super cool, because like that 8171, which I agree with you, I think was an incredible fair price, considering the last yellow gold Pataloni that sold at auction that was in this kind of condition sold for Sotheby's for, I believe it was in the high 5 or low 6s. And if you'd have put them side by side, you'd have thought they just came out of a Rolex case or some sort of time machine. So yeah, I think that was a good buy.
And that's what I try to explain. We help curate collections for customers, also in the coin business and our other industries.
Yeah.
Buy the best you can afford. New is only new once.
Yeah.
And just the ability to look through all of it and see how perfect and unmolested a watch can be versus what the new old stock you see on the internet or in catalogs when you can't physically hold them in your hands.
Yeah. Well, and holding them in your hand provides you an entirely different perspective too, because as hard as we try, and as hard as everyone tries to take great pictures of watches, and we take really, every season our pictures are better and better, and the team is doing incredible work to try to give you the best representation of a watch. There's no substitute for having it in your hand. I saw this catalog before I saw a bunch of the watches that were in it. And they made an impression on me. And then I arrived and they made an entirely different impression on me, meaning I was in love with something that before I wasn't sure that I was paying much attention to. So this is just one more reason to make sure that you get out there and see and handle these things, because you never know. The thing that might move you most is maybe the thing that you would least expect to, so you have to.
I was moved by the Centrograph.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe the condition of that watch and the uniqueness of it. And it looked small. It laid well on my wrist. I didn't have an extra 300,000 euros, but it was beautiful. And I've never seen it. I won't see it again.
You probably won't see it again. If I'm not wrong, and I'm sure someone knows better than I do, but I think there are 3 of this kind of configuration. There are zerographs and centrographs. And some of them have that big pronounced bezel on top, which is a prototype idea. And I think there's 3 of those watches out there, and they're all different, and everyone is really, they're all quite different actually. So if you look at the dials, one is silver and one is black, it's not that that's the only difference, is that like every element is different about them, which is what's exciting.
And with the flyback movement in it, just craziness, the technology, and that's from mid 40s?
Yeah, exactly.
Early think about 40s, that, actually. That's 80 years ago.
Yeah, and also brand new,
Yes.
So to go to one auction, whether it's ours or someone else's, and to see a split second by Rolex, the 4113 that made, if I'm not wrong, it sold for a record price, and if it wasn't a record, it was very near a record. That was held by another watch sold in 2016. But
that was the Goldberger watch.
The Goldberger watch,
right? Fantastic. Which it's not a secret who it is, but it's such a cool watch.
Such a cool watch,
and it's big on the wrist. It's not big; it's just handsome, wonderful size. I loved it. I was also a little surprised. Pocket watch collectors are not around anymore, and you had a extremely rare Vacheron. The watch did everything.
We had 2 extremely. We had the minute repeater, and then we had the perpetual repeater.
Right, the perpetual minute. Explain to them what that means.
I'm not a watchmaker, but I'll do my best. Anyway, so there's having a perpetual is one thing and an extraordinary thing to have.
It makes it's a watch that accounts for a leap year.
It's a watch that accounts for a leap year. As long as you keep it wound, you don't need to change the day, the date, and all these things, and even the moon phase for that matter. But as if it's not enough to have a perpetual calendar. To have it be a minute repeater as well is just something extraordinary. And there were very few of those watches made.
And a minute repeater, if y'all don't know, a minute repeater, when you push the slide on the side of the watch, it gongs for the hour, then it'll gong for the quarter hour, and then to the minutes after that.
Exactly.
Crazy complications. Right. A watch that was made over 100 years ago.
Yeah. And the whole idea was that, if you woke up in the middle of the night, and you needed to know the time or whatever, you could do that without having to, I guess, light a candle or whatever. You certainly weren't flipping a switch, and there was no electric alarm clock on your bedside table. So it served a real purpose, but also for collectors, it's just a romantic idea. A watch that makes sound engages you in a whole other way. And so like we see it, we touch it, but now we can hear it. It makes people crazy. The repeaters for me are like the coolest, most magical thing.
The technology in them, and watchmakers are not necessarily just a watchmaker. They're a micro mechanic.
Exactly.
These people work on it. Just I'm a watch breaker, not a watchmaker, but I have so much respect. So much respect for what they do.
And split seconds also, is really the most complicated mechanism to make. And you know, we had two of them today. You know, so
And of your modern watches, the one that shocked me the most was the unique Asprey stainless steel Datejust.
yeah.
The watch had tourmaline in the bezel and a special dial configuration.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a $25,000 to $30,000 watch, and it brought, I think, 68,000 euros plus the hammer.
I had so many people from Asia reach out to me and ask me, you know, like, so what do you think the watch will do? How do I even answer that question? It's a one-of-one piece, you know? I mean, I wish I could give you some sense, you know? I think the very best we could do is the range that we put on the watch, you know? We'll just start from there and see what happens. But, you know, like you, I didn't have this kind of expectation, but there's something very romantic about Asprey, and when you, and Asprey certainly understands to engrave one-of-one on something has meaning, and always will have meaning.
It'll always be one of one.
It'll always be one-of-one, yeah. So and they get that, you know. Asprey does that, but yeah, it was quite a result for a modern watch for sure. When in an age when only, you know, modern watches are still exciting. I mean, I'm a vintage person at heart, but you know, we always have our fair share here, you know, and because we dig certain ones too, and we want to represent them. But you know, if you look at the catalog, you can tell, and if you look at our cover, you can tell the heart and soul of this house is in vintage watches. But there's plenty of cool, you know, modern stuff out there that we like to throw into.
A lot of people I know, I have a client right now who's been buying from ADs, modern Patek, modern AP, modern Rolex, and he said to me, he goes, when you get back from your auction, please help me to start learning about vintage. I'm tired of having everything everyone else can have.
Yeah.
I want to start collecting something historic, unique, that I can appreciate and that someone else has appreciated for the last generation or generation or generation.
Yeah. I think that's part of the journey, right? That's where, you know, everyone starts there because it's easy to understand. You know, it's brand new. And it comes from an authorized dealer or wherever it comes from. So you have the trust and faith, you know, and so you know that what you're getting is correct and it's original and it's authentic, and you can find comfort in that, you know, and you take that with you. But then when you decide you want to wear it and you go to dinner and your buddy's wearing it, you know, or your buddy or your cousin shows up and he's wearing it, it's like, oh, well, it's still cool, but like now.
Or your cousin's girlfriend's wearing the brand new ceramic Panda Daytona.
right. Which maybe even cuts a little deeper, you know? But like the point is, like you start to, it becomes, you know, for anyone that wears a watch or jewelry, it's an extension of who you are, right? And so we all want to communicate something with that. And it's to an extent, it's got to be about our personality, you know? So once you've acquired a number of watches that are new, I think you start to realize like, oh, okay, so that guy's totally different from me, but he's got the same watch. And then now there's like 6 of us in a group of 30 that are all wearing the same thing. I'm like, well, it's still cool, but like, I'm not setting myself apart in the way that I want to. And then maybe there's something that's more me, you know? And that's a journey that can take, I mean, some people, you know, travel that very, very quickly. But otherwise it takes years to get to the point where you say like, okay, I don't mind the scratches, because once you've had a brand new watch and you put a scratch on it, you can realize how painful that is. So like
the first scratch is always painful.
Always super painful. So like let someone else do the first scratch or two or whatever, you know, and pick up where they left off, and it doesn't have to be so fussy. And then, by the way, you start to realize that there's so many different things to consider. There's so many different brands. You're not just considering what's new and available in a catalog now, you're considering what was new and available in catalogs for the last 80 to 100 years. So it just broadens, you know, your perspective. It opens up a whole new world of opportunity for people.
Patek Philippe has a saying that you don't own a Patek Philippe, you just take care of it for the next generation.
Yeah.
And I know you have a soft side for Pateks. What is your favorite, not if money was no issue at all, what would be the vintage Patek that you'd love to own?
Well, I have to tell you, the watch on the cover of our catalog this season was the kind of watch that I would have wanted to own. You know, one of 3 watches that were ever made by the brand in a tonneau shape during this period when it was just an incredibly crazy thing to do, you know, and it could only be done for someone who requested it, you know, specially. And why would they do that? They had some specific needs. So
racing, horse racing, car racing, timing, etc.
Exactly. And one of the things that goes hand in hand with moving from modern watches to vintage watches is provenance. and you know, you embrace that and look for that in the beginning because you want to understand a little bit about the life that the watch led. But once you go down that path, then you get to like, oh, who owned it and what did they do with it, you know? And so when you have a Patek Philippe with the sort of the very top of complications, and you have it from this period, and it's attached to people like Selfridge and Seagrave and Earhart, you know, it's sort of like I just got chills saying it because and looking in the catalog and seeing the pictures of those three folks and just the adventures that this watch went on.
If it could talk.
I mean, I can imagine it's screenplay upon screenplay upon screenplay. It is for me really the magic of the brand. I think it's the most important Patek Philippe that's come to market in years, and probably will be for years. I wanted this watch to really just blow away everyone's expectations, and I think it did some people's expectations. For me, it was a priceless watch. So if in this moment I had to pick one, you know, that actually might be it.
Oh, fantastic!
It's something really very special.
Yes. Well, I appreciate the opportunity. I look forward to coming back here in fall.
Great.
And viewing.
We
And
can't
I
wait
would
to
like
have you.
I'd like to give you some more consignments. I cannot guarantee I'll be able to give a consignment like this again.
Please, I don't know. I mean, listen, you got us hooked, right? I
Yes.
mean, the first consignment that you arrive with is this one. You know, we are ready and available to take your call whenever it comes.
I know if you see my name on caller ID, it's Rob. I guess we'll take this call.
I think maybe you. I think you know you're being coy, but I think you understand what's important. You've been around enough to understand regular from extraordinary, and this is extraordinary.
Well, fantastic. Great talking with you. I look forward to doing this again soon. And thank you again.
Thanks, Rob.
You got it.
Well, one second, we called.